All right, this is No Excuses with Michael DiLeonardo. I'm your host, RJ Roger. Michael, how you doing?
Very good. Thank you, RJ. And you and your family? Everybody
Oh,
good?
everybody's good. Everything's great. I'm excited for this show because it's something I always wanted to talk about. Can you tell everybody today to subscribe to the channel? They might listen to you more than me.
I don't know. I think you got more influence. But it would be nice to join our team. It would be nice.
Please subscribe, guys. Support the channel. Share the channel. Talk with your friends about it. You know, the more you spread the word, you know, that's how you can help us. That's how you can be of support to us. The interesting thing is people who have no affiliation with the life, they're just people like me. We read about it. We find it interesting. You know, it's a large amount of people who will say, oh, the mob's dead. It lost its power, blah, blah, blah. But the funny thing is, people such as yourself who were former members of the life, I heard Sammy say it. I heard Michael Franzese say it. I've heard you say it. When you guys assess Cosa Nostra today, I heard, like I said, I heard Sammy say it. I like the way they're doing things now. They're smart. Not so many bodies in the street. They're quiet.
Oh, sorry. Excuse me.
Well, I heard Sammy say
Why
that.
you're laughable? I'm sorry. I'm going to behave.
So my point, but people like yourself who were in it, you guys seem to think, no, this is the way it's supposed to be. It's not bad.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. What?
I can't.
Go ahead. So my point is, it's just interesting that it just shows how the perspective is different from, like, you probably think, no, this is the kind of life that it's easier for a guy to be in.
Yeah.
And it's better this way. This is the way it should have been.
Yep.
But that's a common theme among guys like yourself who were in it. I mean, again, you're a big voice. Sammy, I would say, is a big voice. Franzese is a big voice. And for all you guys to say, you know, the way they're doing it now, that's the way it should have been when I was there.
I'm going to agree with the assessment no matter where it comes from.
Yeah.
If it's a voice in the crowd, I'm going to agree with it, of course. And, you know, you need teachers. If you have teachers out there that could make you really, even if someone just wants to belong to that club, belong to a club, but teach them the rules to belong to the club. They don't have to be a killer. They don't have to be a junk dealer. Teach them the right rules. Again, they're coming from me. It's going to sound like, who is this guy? But I try to principle myself that way in the past. And, you know, I love being taught. 2 ears, 1 mouth, you know, and I try to use my mouth very little. Just keep listening. If I would ask a lot of questions, I would have a lot more knowledge of the past. To my regret, because that was the way I was built. You were always tentative about asking questions, even though I had this huge comfort zone with people, my family, even though they weren't blood. I could ask anything, and but that was just me. You know, just not asking those questions. They told me enough, you know, taught me enough. I don't know if I told the story before, but just about teaching. When I was proposed in the late 70s, I was first proposed in the late 70s, somewhere around there. And Paulie Zach had taken me in some sit downs. Just he would ask permission if it was a wise guy, which it usually was. And he would ask, "It was okay, Michael, sit here." And one guy said no. And I got pissed off. And, you know, I got dismissed out of the room. And he says, "Yeah, you got your feelings right, huh?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "What the fuck? This guy's a fucking scumbag." He says, "No, he's not. That's protocol. Don't get mad at him." He says, "He has a right not to talk to you. You ain't in yet. When you get your finger pinched, you become one of us. You'll be able to sit there. He won't be able to dismiss you. Right now, these are the rules. Accept it. Don't get mad at him. He did the right thing."
What year were you put
I
on
think
record?
I think the first time was probably like 79.
That you were on record.
No, I was proposed to get straightened out.
No. I don't mean propose, but when you were like, were you on record
Listen,
with?
I was born on record. I was born on record. When I started, coming around with Paul more, and he started, he officially put me on record. I was young, probably, I don't know, maybe 18.
Born on record. Wow, that makes me think.
It's blood. You're born with blood. A lot of people are born on record, not just me. Anybody, if your father's a wise guy, you're born on record.
That's a great answer.
A nephew, you're born on record. Nobody, you belong to him. If you're in the street.
I gotta ask you this because I've been working.
I need a drink.
Get a drink because this is going to be a good one.
Okay, I'm fine.
I was working on something for the last couple months, but it wasn't even about this show. It wasn't planned. I have it written on a dinner plate, if you can see.
Come on, I don't think we're really broke. We're gonna have to pass around a tin cup. You don't have a legal pad?
But when things hit me, I just grab something and I write notes. But
like Jim Morrison used to do that at doors. He used to write songs on bags, lunch bags.
But you just said something really interesting that reminded me of. So I was watching the Patrick Bet David Valuetainment discussion between Franzese and Sammy. And
I didn't see it. I seen just little clips. So
yeah. But this clip is out there. I'll send it to you. But I have to ask you this because I think you can really shine some color on it because you were a made guy and you come from a lineage of, and you were schooled into life. So this discussion between Franzese and Sammy, the perspective was, and Sammy's not like, I divide Cosa Nostra essentially into 3 eras. Era 1, I call it the era of the mustache Pete's. I call it era 2 the era of the Young Turks, and era 3 the Last Don era. So you have like the guys that first came over. And they like through Ellis Island, and they had very strong rituals, and they they had their way of life that they completely brought over, and they were like guys like Don Vito, Cassio, Ferro, and Morello, and those guys like the first guys, some of the original guys, and then the Young Turks was like those up and coming young guys like Lucky Luciano and people like that, and they had a kind of a different philosophy from the Mustache Pete's, and then you had that what I call the Last Don era, which is like the guys in the 80s, guys like yourself. Like you come from that last big, strong mob power presence. So my point is, Sammy was having this debate with Michael, and he says to Michael, you shouldn't have got made, essentially. You didn't put the work in because you got in because of your father, who your father was. So Sammy's perspective was the working guy was the guy that earned his button. And when he said this, that's very true to the 3rd era, that 80s era. From what I would look at, you put work in, you earn your button. But when I look back, the original guys, it's exactly what you just said. If you were blood ties, born to a boss, born to a made guy, it was a rite of passage. It was a birthright. It was you're in. You were guaranteed a slot.
Let me see if I give you 2 examples.
Okay.
In my time.
Okay.
Louis Melito had no family, no lineage. Gravano, no family, no lineage. I was very, very close with Louis Melito. I didn't know him as long as I knew Sammy, but I got very close with Louis. Louis disclosed a lot of things to me. We were sitting together one day, and he started talking about exactly what we're talking about guys getting in. And it came up over a guy named Sammy Riccobono, John Riccobone's son, older than me. It would come from a long line. The Riccobones go way back. They were in the administration. John Riccobone, his father, was a captain on the Bull. There was a beef. People bucked Johnny Riccobone, and that's when one of the lists got held up at one time. because people beefed that Sammy he was not quality material to get made. People seen something in him. When we talk about the fear factor, look in somebody's eyes. There was a lot of people that figured that Sammy, and he was a nice guy, Sammy. If he's alive today, I don't want to hurt the guy's feelings, but you look at Sammy, you know he didn't belong in life. And he was blinking and stuttering. He wasn't an aggressive guy. Nice guy, gentleman, total gentleman. Again, great lineage, but never, ever got straightened out. And Johnny Riccobono got mad at Paul for not straightening out his son because of the lineage, because it was his father and his uncles that go way back in that life. Go to Louis Melito. He says, Michael, I blasted my way in this life. I said this before somewhere. Maybe
Gary Jenkins is where you said it.
And this is a guy who got in another way. So there's different ways. There's just to say a guy had lineage doesn't mean it's going to happen. Whoever put their balls up to knock him off that list, I don't know who it was, but I would like to know. I never asked. But put their balls up, Paul listened because he's seen the same thing. He knew the guy was not material for that life. So lineage did not play a part there, but has since the beginning. Let's go back again to the beginning. And we talked about this race. I don't want to get redundant. But that's how they kept this thing strong going back. Yes. It's an island.
Yes.
Strong because it was all relatives. Everybody was either compadre, paisan from the same time. It's like being related when they came to the States.
Yeah.
Clubs all over New York. Every Castro Filippo club, the Toretto club, the Carinese club. Everybody had a club, So of course they were paisans, so they were like related. So the Shakadana club, they could keep going on in every town in Castellano club. We could keep going. So yeah, blood played a huge part going back. Then it came to the States. It still played a huge part for a while,
for a long time. But it changed. It changed,
and it's because a lot of the kids weren't getting involved as much. They were going to colleges. They were going into businesses. Take Joe Pofacci, straighten out his kids, but they went into business. They're legitimate. They're not going around the street. These guys, it's called Avita Oil, massive all over the world business. Massive company. The sons of wives, but they backed it up. The Colombo guys today, if they're still alive. So they came into a lineage, like a lot of other guys. But were they really for the life? I agree with both of them, Sammy and Michael, which is strange because Michael's not wrong.
He's not.
He's 100% right.
He's more right historically than Sammy. He's historically speaking.
Historically. Go back to Louis Melito blasting your way in. But there were those guys in time that didn't have lineage that came in. They didn't have a grandfather. But it was smaller then because who's the people you could trust more? Your relatives.
Exactly. And that's what I want to ask you. Do you think that that's what contributed? Because in my opinion, what contributed to the downfall was when you're now doing business with a guy who we have to say is our brother rather than the guy who is our brother. Rather than, when you had, especially when I look at Sicily, they had groupings of like certain areas. Every fucking body who was made, they were all related in some way. They were all made.
Trying to crack that circle. Never happened.
Couldn't crack it. You could not crack it. They will die. They'll fucking die first.
They do die.
Exactly. And when you ask yourself, how the fuck, Michael, I studied crime my whole life. This is the only crime organization that went 100 years right here in this country.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, but
1800s. Right.
And they could, how does that happen? It was those principles that I don't care how many motherfucking people you killed, you ain't getting in. You can do some work, you can be but you were never going to be a boss. A guy like I heard you say with Gary Jenkins, John blasted his way in. Sammy blasted his way in. They ain't guys that come
Where
from.
they are.
They're not guys that come from like who have family and things in their life. They're first timers. You could have never been a boss. You could have never at a time. How can this guy lead this pure-blooded family thing? You mentioned it in one of our shows before, how you said, RJ, why do you think that there was intermarrying between cousins and things like that? It was so much about keep this thing as family tight. Joe Massino was looked at like, he started saying he was kind of pressing guys to get their sons made. It was looked at like crazy. Sammy has a thing in his book where he says, he was in a meeting, I think, and John says to Chin, hey, I just got my son made. And he says that Chin looks over at John and goes, well, I'm sorry I didn't hear that. Mm-hmm. Almost like, why would you bring your son into this? But when Joe Massino was talking about that, that's almost looked at like crazy because of the era he was in. But he was historically accurate that let's get this thing tight again.
Yeah. Well, that was old school, absolutely. But you came to the States and you started to lose that pool of that bloodline. Yeah. So a lot of the smarter guys, look, my grandfather never straightened out any of the sons. Lucky asked for my father in the 30s.
Say that again?
Lucky Luciano asked for my father in the 30s. Straighten him out.
Wow.
Why don't you straighten your son out? He says, nobody gets my son. His padrone was killed. That's it. And he said it in Sicilian. I forget how it goes. He said, Mazzada is his godfather. And that was it. He says, nobody gets my son. Carl had asked for my father later on to my grandfather, give me your son, Tony. He says, no. And why at that time? My father, he would have got clipped and he wouldn't have lasted a couple of years. He had a very, very bad temper and he really didn't know how to talk to people. And at that level, he would have got killed. So he kept him out.
But let me ask you, I know we're getting really, we're talking about a lot of things, but how does work prove loyalty? Cosa Nostra was all about loyalty.
Well, the whole thing was people got death penalty. Maybe people forget that. People were getting the death penalty years ago. Jews included. The murder incorporated guys. Italians and Jews were getting death penalty. So if you committed a murder, you were putting your balls up that you may get the death penalty one day. So the whole thing was you put guys on that are culpable. There wasn't the guys flipping, and there was no WITSEC protection. That guys found a soft landing to give things up later on. So that helped. But the thing was, you're going to be just as guilty as me. And if you decide to talk, you may get death penalty and be in jail the rest of your life also. So it was something having a heavy crime on top of your head, and to prove, not only to prove your loyalty, just to have something on you that you couldn't talk to the cops or shouldn't talk to the cops. But that was a part of, the pinching of the finger was, it was the blood oath where you killed for the family. And that was part of proving yourself. It didn't happen. Murders didn't happen before you got it. After you got in, excuse me. They happened before you got in to test your loyalty. They happen after, of course. Guys, not everybody killed somebody in their life. It's by numerically, it's not possible. They were on murder, 6, 8, 10 guys on a hit. You were part of a hit team. Doesn't matter at that point if you shot somebody or you drove a car, you were a lookout. You're still culpable in the murder. But that's how they did it without killing everybody. You're going to straighten out 8 guys. You're going to say, who are we mad at? Can we get mad at somebody this week? We got to kill them to get these 8 guys straightened out? No, it don't work like that. You just can't put guys on hits. A lot of guys go through their life without being on a murder. I'm sure today, where's all the murders? Look at all the guys who still getting straightened out in the last 25, 30 years. Where's all the murders that these guys are getting made? It's not there. So guys are getting straightened out without the murder, right? They're getting straightened out either by lineage, if whatever's left out there, or loyalty, or they got a lot of money, or somebody likes them. They got a good personality. They had a dance. I don't know. But take all those factors. It's not about murders anymore. It's not about putting a guy on the hit to say, this is how we're going to straighten him out. If that was the criteria and the prerequisite for that, nobody would be getting straightened out. There's no murders.
Weren't you guys important guys from Sicily at a time?
No importation tax, no duty fee, nothing like that. No.
I don't mean it like that, but like during the war.
What time? What era are we talking about?
Well, during the war with Dottorina, didn't a lot of guys come over to the Gambino?
No, they ran out of Italy. Weren't imported. They ran away from Sicily
and joined up with you guys. They joined up with
some of them, but a lot of them was straightened out there that didn't get straightened out. They get put in the family here. Some of these guys just were still Sicilian from there, made there, but really there was a rule here that they really had no power here. The guys that ran away. Some guys got put in. A minimum amount of guys got put in. But a lot of guys that, and I have an example, I don't want to talk about it now. I could talk about it down the road. Something in my time that I try to get done that I could not. But no, there wasn't we weren't importing guys. They ran away from Sicily because Reno was killing everybody.
Yeah, I guess import's a bad word. I just mean bringing guys over from Sicily. I thought maybe some guys came over. Okay, no, okay.
That stopped a long time ago. Okay. That I would say stopped in probably the 20s, guys, 30s, or maybe early 30s.
Yeah,
that joined in over here.
Yeah, I don't know. When I look at it, I always just find it fascinating that, like, the original way. I read something that Carlo was concerned about second generation Italians. He didn't want to make them. He was afraid that they were too Americanized, and he had like I read somewhere that he was a little bit concerned with opening the books. Like he didn't want to open them back up.
Yeah.
But it had went so long. It went so long. Yeah, it went so long that they wasn't making anybody. But even when I think about that, how fascinating is that? We are so worried about this thing being punctured or wounded. We're not making nobody. 20 years. That's brilliant.
That's a great point.
That's brilliant, Michael. That's fucking brilliant.
And they got away with it.
20 years.
How about a lot of guys that waited?
But
I think Joe Brewster got straightened out in the 60s. There's guys get straightened out in their 60s, 50s, 60s. A lot of guys got straightened out late in life. That's why there was a little resentment with guys getting straightened out early, younger guys getting straightened out, when the book's over. But there was guys that did a lot of work. There was a lot of guys that they were close to people, the guys like John Gotti's of the world, Frankie DeChico's of the world. They got straightened out before older guys, only because they had a lot of things that they done for the family and warranted getting it ahead of time. There were assets, younger assets. You can't have old men. You need young blood. You need to pump it in. So Carl, if that was his philosophy at the time, shut it down. How long could you do that for before but through attrition, it's over. You become, like I said, Kansas, not to disparage Kansas City, but what, they got 6 guys? I don't even know. I'm just saying that's what you become. So it's still, you have to hold on to something, but you need numbers to do that. The thing is, how many numbers do you need just to say you have numbers, if that makes sense? You bring it down 10% and take 10% of the fat that really don't belong out. You cut down your numbers instead of closing the books. There's different philosophies how to think, how to get more meat on the bone and get rid of the fat, what you're seeing around with all this nonsense going around today.
Hey guys, so what do you think of the show? Leave your comments. Nothing means more to Michael and I than viewership feedback. Now, when the show opens up, Michael starts belligerently laughing. What the hell is so funny? I didn't ask him yet, but I have an idea. What do you guys think? Leave in the comments section below. Why is Michael laughing so hard about very simple comments that I made? I didn't ask him for a reason, but I'm going to ask him. But first, I want you guys to leave in the comments, why do you think Michael was laughing? I'll ask Michael the answer to this question on our first Patreon show. Now, guys, I never take the opportunity, I never lose the opportunity to not say thank you The channel is about you. We are a viewer-centric channel. Why does Michael sit up till 3 o'clock in the morning responding to 500 comments? Because this channel is about you. So we don't ask you for money. We don't ask you for anything other than support, like, subscribe, share. Let people know about it. Tell people about it. You guys will never know, excuse me, what you guys do for me, for the channel, for my brother, Michael. I love Michael. I will always say that. He's one of the greatest people I've ever known. He's one of the most beautiful hearted people I've ever known. I would literally lay on a train track for Michael. Great guy, great human. And what I can tell by reading most of your comments is you guys can see the same thing I see. Now, we love you guys. We are a grassroots channel. No promotion. We don't pay for promotion. We don't buy views. We don't buy subscribers. We don't do nothing. We hit the record button and then we upload. That's all we do. We make no appearances on other people's shows. We do not attack people. We do nothing salacious. We just do content. That's the old way it used to be done. Content, put it out, see what people think. We love you guys. No excuses. Like, subscribe, share. Please don't forget. That's so important to this podcasting business. See you guys next week. Peace and love.